Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Talking with Todd podcast. I'm your host, Todd Carter, where I have conversations with extraordinary people who are making a difference in their communities. Today's episode is sponsored by 93 Michi Beats. Forget your producer, my beats are made by Michi. Today on the show, we have our special guest, Miss Michelle Steiner. Michelle is a disability writer, photographer, and paraeducator. Hello, Michelle. Welcome to the show.
Oh, hello, Todd. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. You are welcome. All right. So before we get started, go ahead and tell everybody where you're from.
Sure. I am from Butler, Pennsylvania. I live there with my husband and our two cats, Jack and Sparrow.
Awesome. I have a dog myself. Well, my
Oh,
daughter dog, Spud.
oh, how nice.
Yeah, I love animals.
Yes, they're great company.
All right, so tell the listeners about yourself.
Sure. Well, my name is Michelle Steiner, and I have a learning disability. And my learning disability is dyscalculia, which is the math one, or dyscalculia, depending on how you pronounce it.
Mhm.
And I also have visual perception difficulties, but those are with my brain, not my eyes. And I have limited hand dexterity in both of my hands.
Okay. All right. Never heard of that before. So thank you so
Mhm.
much for sharing that. Um, okay. Coming in. All right. So what inspired you to become a disability writer?
A lot of what inspired me to become a disability writer is my own experience with having a disability. Writing has always been a really healing thing for me. I can remember when I was in school, I really struggled with learning, especially anything math related, but even other subjects. It was really difficult for me. I would study for tests and I would fail them and I wouldn't do well. And I thought that learning was always going to be hard and there wasn't anything I was good at. And I can remember, I think it was second or third grade, I wrote a story about a dinosaur and my dad saw it and he said, wow, this is really good. And that just gave me such a confidence boost. I thought, okay, there's something I'm actually good at that people notice.
Mhm.
And that just gave me that inspiration to write. And I can remember I would write about all kinds of things. And I became part of a writing group. I'm still friends with the people 20 some years later. And
Awesome.
yeah, and I can remember I was in the group and I was talking about having a learning disability. And one of my friends said, you really should write about that. And I thought, oh no, that's a little too personal. I don't want to go there. And I think I wrote some bad poetry and some other cringeworthy things. But when I finally wrote that story about having my struggle with locks and limited hand dexterity, when that got published, that was another healing thing one of the most healing things that I ever have done. And that just inspired me to write more and to eventually start my own blog.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell me about your blog.
Sure. My blog is called Michelle's Mission. And on my blog, I feature stories about life with a learning disability. I also incorporate metaphors with nature. That's a big factor because I also put in photography. I'm not able to drive because of my disability. So a lot of times I'll go on a walk and I can see details that other people might miss. And I
Mhm.
get that chance to capture them and to be able to put them on the blog. And I also have my own little store where people can purchase prints and a journal, and I have a mug as well. And I even started a disability forum just to connect people with disabilities to be able to talk. And the topic for this month is travel. I have a whole travel theme with a disability. So I'm asking people to put down their travel tips with a disability and also their favorite vacations and just memorable ones and just trying to get that connection going with other people who have disabilities.
Wow, that's super cool. I love that. I never would have thought of a forum. I mean, I think
Mhm,
that's pretty awesome because I was talking to someone else that has a disability on one of my other
mhm,
episodes. I think unless you have someone in your family or yourself experience that, you don't really understand a lot of things that they go through or things that they need. And so I can see how having a forum will be able to touch a lot of people, because then you have different people saying what it is that they in particularly need. And so one of the things that she did share on the episode with me is that what she said, and it didn't affect her personally, but it was just something that she
mhm,
wanted to go forward and help with, is that she feels like there should be an adult changing table, so that for the people who are adults and they, for whatever reason, have
mhm,
to be, um, changed or whatever, that it needs to be some type of space to prevent them from having to, as she said, well, they probably have to get a mat if you're not able to get back to your car or van or
mhm.
whatever it is. She said there's nothing in place. And I never ever thought about that.
Right.
And I could see how, and so I asked her, I said, so what are you gonna do about it? Since this is something, in terms of like, okay, you got to get to work and, go to Congress and talk about it and share, why it's needed. So
Definitely, because a lot of times people don't consider things until they've either gone through it themselves or they know somebody that has. And that brings up a lot of learning and a lot of connection and a lot of resources too.
mhm. Yeah. I'm just amazed. So I told her that I definitely wanted to make sure that she keeps
Mhm.
me in the loop on that. And if it's any way that I can help her with that, I wanted to be a part, because I think it's a really good cause. And I'm sure she has some more things, as well as you probably have some more things that you would like to address or, bring awareness to. So again, thank you guys for doing that, because it just has to, it take people to be courageous and, just stand up for what they feel is right and what they feel passionate about to help others. So great job. We need more Michelles in the world.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So, what has your learning disability taught you about Michelle?
I think my having a learning disability has taught me a lot about what I can do.
Mhm,
And it sometimes it has stretched me to do things that maybe I didn't think was possible, but it's given me that resilience.
mhm,
That was something that I had to definitely work on, because I can remember being in school and being really frustrated with not being able to understand things. And just my parents were amazing. They were always my advocates for me, but
mhm,
they also pushed me to go to school, even when they knew that I wasn't going to do well in a class or I wasn't going to do well in a test. I also had to go to school, even if I wasn't getting along with somebody, because I struggled socially as well. And I wondered what good would come out of all of this. And as I've gone through my life, I realized it has taught me how to have resilience when things get really difficult. And it's also taught me too that things do get better, because I remember thinking, oh, there's not going to be any good that's ever going to come out of this. And once I little to what I knew, I started to realize this having this disability wasn't not only going to help me, but it was going to be able to help out a lot of other people in the future as well.
That's awesome. Well, it's good that you looked at it as something that you wanted to go forward and help other people, instead
Mhm.
of just saying kind of like, why is this, why did it happen to me, or why I have to have a learning disability. It seems like you automatically just say, okay, let me, make this situation into something good. As they always say, you get the lemons and then you make lemonade.
Exactly. That is so true.
That is great. And in that, it kind of goes into my next question. So, inspiring other people makes you feel what when you know that you have inspired someone?
That makes me feel like I've come full circle,
Mhm,
because a lot of time, whenever I work with my students, it can be like hearing a recording of myself. I can remember, um, you know, last year I worked with seventh graders, and I think this year I'll be doing that as well. And it was like hearing me recording of myself. I hate my learning disability. I wish I didn't have it. I wish I didn't have a plan that I had to follow with this. And I had the chance to tell them it's okay to have a disability and it's okay to be different. And one of the most satisfying things that I have done with that job is helping other people. I sometimes at the beginning of the school year, I will get a student that might be a little hesitant about themselves and their confidence. And the kids know not to ask me for help with math, but I do help them with reading and their spelling words. And Monday will come around and we'll get the words and they'll be so discouraged. And then towards the end of the week, when they take that test, every day we do a little bit of work and I gently encourage. And then when they come around on Friday after they take the test, they say, I got an 8 out of 10, or I got 100%. And that just gives me a really good feeling. And another example of that too, in the beginning of the year, we'll have a student that'll have a backpack that has papers everywhere. And I'll go through it with them. Like, this is how we organize our backpack. And by the spring semester, they're able to take that information and they're organizing their own backpack. And they're just maybe asking me how to spell extra papers or something like that. And I get that chance to retest to them. And I get that it's going full circle for me because somebody helped me in my life a long time ago. And now I get the chance to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as I was hearing you talk, I think it's also good that your students see, you, a person who have a disability, but they also see you in a role that is helping others. So I'm sure that is inspiring in itself right there, because I mean, they can look at, okay, here's another person that has a disability, but they're able to do this. They're able to be the teacher. They're able to, go on in life and do other things, do interviews, go on a podcast, have a blog and a forum. So that means a lot too, because they're able to see it in actual real time, someone else be their very best and beat the odds. So good. That's just wonderful, because you're being a role model as well and give them someone to look up to. So I think and that probably stretched them further too. When they look at it and they think about it, it's like, I know it's kind of like one of those things where that they feel like, okay, I can do this because I'm looking at how she does it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because I get a variety of responses when I say that I can't do math. I remember when I worked with some little ones, I was helping out in a first grade class and I got an answer wrong. And this little girl couldn't understand why I couldn't do math. And I just said, oh, I'm just not good at math. And she's told me, well, there's grown-up school for that. And which I had to laugh because it was so cute, because it was so innocent. And then I can remember one year I was helping out a group of older students in seventh grade, and one of them asked me for help with math. And I said, oh, I can't do that. And one asked me, well, why can't you? And I said, well, God just didn't give me that ability. And there was another girl in the class that looked at me and said, me too. And at that moment, I had that chance with that humility to connect with another person, to let somebody else know that they weren't alone in that.
Absolutely. And I think even when you don't have a disability, it is so good to just, no matter what it is that you're going through in life, sometimes just know that there's somebody else out there that has went through the same thing. Because I think sometimes we get so caught up in our own life and we feel like we're the only one that's experiencing something that may not be what we want it to be. And then we have no idea that there are so many people around the world that have stories, sometimes worse or greater or whatever.
Right.
But with doing this podcast, I have met some amazing people. And it has really just opened my eye to, like you said earlier, resilience that people have, determination, drive, and then just that overall happiness that they find within themselves to just push forward no matter what life threw at them. And it has been so inspiring to me, as well as the stories that I like to tell on my platform to others, because I just think that we all need to hear where people, just excel, or And not so much about making that you excel, but just go from one thing in life and just, reinvent themselves, or just,
Mhm.
succeed in something that the odds was stacked against them, if I may say.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I love that. So, what has been your greatest reward in regards to the work that you do for others?
I think one of the greatest rewards that I get is when I have that connection with somebody that says, I thought I was the only one that struggled with this. And when I read your article or I saw your post, I you gave me the verbiage to describe what I'm going through. And it's just having that connection of not feeling alone, like they're the only person that struggles with that. And I think that's just that connection that I get with other people.
Yeah, I love to connect with other people. I love to help. I think that's just great. And which is one of the other questions that I was going to ask you is, how did you find your purpose in life?
I found my purpose in life whenever I always knew that I wanted to work with students in some capacity. And I knew that I wanted to do something with writing. And
Mm.
for a long time, I struggled with, when I was at school, wondering, oh, am I ever going to be able to go to college with my disability? And I just, I eventually found a lot of jobs just working in childcare centers, working in schools, and I just love doing that. And I also was able to find my purpose with writing and just having that encouragement from a lot of my friends and a lot of my family to just share my story.
Mhm.
And also photography. That was another purpose that I found that was really unexpected. I thought I didn't have any artistic ability besides writing. I was frustrated that I couldn't draw a straight line or color in the lines. And I can remember I had a dear friend that said, you can do this. You're really good at this. And I had another one that saw a picture and said, well, you have perspective. And it took me a long time to be able to find that out. But just having that gentle encouragement from other people just really made the difference.
Awesome. And I always say, like, when you find your purpose, I tell people who don't know what their purpose are, I say, think of something that you do without even knowing that you're doing it. I
Yep.
say, think about something that you enjoy doing. And a lot of times when they do that, then they'll realize, you know what, I do this all the time. And then they'll realize, you know what, okay, that is my purpose. Then they'll start to walk in it. And I always say that, walking in your purpose is just the greatest reward, because I think that's where you get your most fulfillment in life, is when you are operating in your purpose and what it is that you're supposed to do. I think that is so awesome. So I'm
Definitely. Yep.
definitely doing that. All right. So let's see here. So, what gave you the motivation to become a disability advocate?
My motivation was that I wanted to help other people because I did have people that helped me in school with reading tests and making sure that I understood information. But I think it was really hard to find that representation were people that were like me because I didn't know anybody. Most of my peers in learning support struggled with reading,
Mhm.
very few struggle with math. And I just wanted to be there to show other people that there are people that do have this type of a disability and nobody is alone. And I wanted to speak up for other people as well, because I think sometimes that can be really tough for somebody that might have a disability. It doesn't feel that they can speak up for themselves, and to be able to empower them in ways that they can do that and take that in their own community.
That's good. Absolutely. So now, I think I read that you're an author. So have you published a book?
I have 3 stories published in an anthology called Rediscovering Your Story. I went to some workshops where a group in my area was doing some writing workshops where people had that chance to talk about mental health. They had a chance to also it was a NAMI group, and while I didn't have maybe some of the mental health things that some of the other participants did, I was able to go through some of our prompts and process having a learning disability. And the way that I accepted it. We had some fun prompts where we talked about our hair, and we also had some other ones where we had to talk about the greatest lessons that we learned in our life. And we also had that chance to talk about our favorite places, and just getting that experience and just coming together with a lot of people like that, and putting the book together. And the book is on Amazon.
Okay, great. All right. Well, that's awesome. I just wanted to make sure that if it was something that you were selling, that you know tell everybody so they
Yes,
can go out and
sure.
get. All right. So also tell me what a disability accommodations you would like to change. So I did read where you was doing disability accommodation, but I didn't really understand what that was. So
Sure. A lot of the accommodations that I have used in the past, if I'm at school, I would need a note taker, extended test time. Those are some of the ones we did. And I had a test read aloud to me.
yeah.
At work, I have a lot of people that are really understanding. I'm blessed to have a job where people understand what my needs are.
Mhm.
But what I would like to see changed is to have more accommodations that are for people that have learning disabilities, that are more customized. Because I can remember when I was involved with some agencies that provided job accommodations for people with disabilities, it was more for people that had intellectual disabilities. And I had a lot, it was not customized for what I could do. I can
Mhm.
remember going into some of these agencies, and they had me circling jobs in the newspaper. And I thought, well, I can do that at home. And if I would tell them I was going on a job interview, they would ask, well, do you want us to come with you and provide support? And I'm like, well, I can do that. And when
Mhm.
we had an event where we were featured, I saw that a lot of the people there had intellectual disabilities or other types of disabilities, and they had jobs where they weren't working in schools or offices. They were working in grocery stores, which was fine. But that just wasn't for me. So what I would love to see is more services that address the needs of a person that has a learning disability, and to customize those services to fit their individual needs.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because what you're saying is that it's like, okay, I'm fine with getting places on my own and things like
Yeah.
that. I certain things like you say, with the math that you would need, or to have
Mhm.
somebody read it out loud, things like that. So yeah, I see what you're saying. And that's what I always kind of think about. I've been wanting to start a nonprofit for years because I want
Mhm.
to get those little bitty things that people don't address. And one of the things that I wanted to do is that I always feel like when it comes down to somebody needing money or assistance, you
Mhm.
have to be really broke before you can qualify those things. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I wanted to do, I say, well, who helps the person that, it's like they're not making enough, but
Mhm.
they're paying their bills, but they don't have enough. So it's say like if their car break down, but they need just a little bit of help. I say they don't have resources for people who may need just help with, say, paying their rent one time. They don't need to be put on a program forever to, to get food or
Right.
something. They just may need something where they can just go through to without having to use too much. They send you through so much information. So that's one of the things that I wanted to do, is where you need just a little help, not too much, and you didn't have to go through so much to get it. And so I can understand what you're saying. It's like
Mhm.
it's things. So I guess it's one of those things where you have to streamline, particular other needs that you find out that people may want, and try to provide services for those ones that fall in the crack.
Exactly, because I agree with you. There are we have a system that is definitely broken and just needs a lot of reform for that.
Right. Absolutely. All right. And also, I said this to you earlier, but I love the way that you live a life through your photography. So, how do you, I said it wrong, photography. So, how do you get inspired, and just kind of run me through what that looks like for you when you're out and you decide to, post something.
Well, a lot of my inspiration comes from not being able to drive and sitting in the passenger seat. I'll be in the car with my husband and I'll say, "Did you see that?" And he'll say, "No, I'm focused on the road," and as he should be. And I get that chance to see a flower or a sign for a restaurant or something really, or an event. And oftentimes, if we're in our neighborhood and I see something, I get that chance later to go back and take a walk and take a picture of a flower. And some of them are old favorites. There are definitely seasons for flowers, and a lot of our neighbors have different ones that come up every year, and those are old favorites. And every once in a while, though, I get an opportunity to see something that is new and different, and I get to take the picture of it. And my husband and I also love to travel to different places. So we'll get a chance to go to gardens and museums, and I'll see things and I'll photograph it.
Awesome. All right, so that takes us into the next thing that I do is on a personal note. How did you meet your spouse, your husband?
I met my spouse totally unexpected. I can remember I was volunteering that night at an art center in our town, and I was walking down the street and he saw me, and I was wearing a red dress, and he thought, "Oh, who's that girl? Where's she going?" And it turns out he was going to the same place. Mm-hmm. And he was playing guitar that night for open mic. And when we got in there, he saw that we had mutual friends. He goes, "Oh, she knows her. I know her from way back." And he started coming around that summer, and we just started hanging out and getting to know each other and became friends first.
Okay. Awesome. That's a lovely story. Yeah, you should always be friends with people first, because I think that I always say no matter what it is, you should, if you're friends with a person, then you're on a real good foundation. And then you can see whether or not that they may fit in your life based on being their friend first without any expectations of the person. It's just genuinely getting to know them. So
right. Agreed.
All right. Okay, well, now it is the time in the show where we talk about what we are thankful for, which I call Talk with Todd. And I had asked you to tell me something that you're thankful for.
I am very thankful for my husband and all my friends and family who are a wonderful support to me in my life, and I couldn't do it without them.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. I'm just so thankful for the close-knit friends that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I had two opportunities sent my way just this week from just some close friends of mine that I wouldn't have even known about, but they thought enough from me to share the opportunities and for my podcast. So I'm just thankful for that, to have people in my life that care about me and the platform that I'm on and wanting to share opportunities with me. So absolutely. All right. All right. So Miss Michelle, I have enjoyed our time together.
Oh, same here.
And I just hope that this conversation that we had inspires someone, because it definitely, have empowered and inspired me. So hopefully the listeners feel the same from what you have shared here with me today. So go ahead and tell everybody out there how they can follow you on social media.
You can find me at michellesmission.net on my blog. And you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. And you can also email me at msteiner441@gmail.com.
All right, super. All right, you guys, you can follow me on Facebook and TikTok as Todd Carter, and on Instagram as Ivy Tot 10 and Talking with Todd. All right. All right. So again, I have enjoyed, if you have enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Until next time, this is the one and only Todd Carter, a podcast that reveals how extraordinary people find their purpose in life. Hmm. Do you know what your purpose is? If you don't, go out there and explore new things and just figure out what it is that you want to do in life and go find your purpose. All right. Goodbye, y'all. You can tell them goodbye, Michelle.
Goodbye.
I always end with my southern drawl.